But I think it's important because I know some of the things I've seen, specifically in working on the Jonathan Pollard case, and working on his life story and kicking that out, seeing some of the documents that were available during the Reagan administration, which it was like we were looking at this Iran Contra, Israel, the same shit that we're dealing with right now, right? Like the same kind of manipulation behind the scenes. So I'm looking at all that, but then I'm seeing this other like glowing little thing over here that has to do with UFOs and UAPs, and I'm going, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. The following is my conversation with Adam G. Simon. Adam is an American actor and screenwriter based out in Thailand. He's responsible for films such as Man Down with Shia LaBeouf and the recent film on Netflix, Point Blank. Adam is a super creative and talented guy, and he really wears his heart on his sleeve. He says what he means and he means what he thinks. A real breath of fresh air, and I really enjoyed my conversation with him. This conversation is in two parts, mainly because, and I'll full honesty here, um, I originally elected for the free Zoom option when podcasting and didn't realise that it ran out after 40 minutes. And our conversation had gone on for a while, really entertaining. I didn't want to cut it off. So Adam has been kind enough and a real gent, and accepted a second interview with me. So we'll have two parts. Both parts are super interesting, and I really enjoyed my conversation with him. During the time in between our first and second conversation, I've had shoulder surgery, hence why I'll be wearing a sling, just FYI. So the following is my conversation with Adam G. Simon.
This is part two, and I gotta ask you, like, did was all this stuff going on in Israel when we hopped on?
I think it had
Like,
just started. I think. No, I think it was perhaps the day after. I think it was the day after. The day after we
that's
recorded was the first kind of attack, I
so
believe.
since we last spoke, then a whole war has broken out in Israel, and you busted your arm. What's the deal, dude? What happened? What was
Yeah.
the
Well, so yes, I'm still in the
Jesus, man?
original.
What? Yeah, talk to me. What happened?
So I many years ago I dislocated my shoulder, and then a few years
Okay.
later I dislocated it again, and then a few years later I dislocated it again. So it's dislocated so many times that it's now so loose that the doctor said we should probably sort of, work on it, maybe do something. So they were going to take some bone from my waist and kind of fuse it into my shoulder.
Oh
Um,
God.
and in the end, they just cut it open and then they cut around the back. So I'll probably have a massive scar. I haven't seen it yet because I've got all of the bandaging on still. So that's coming off in a few days. But I'm
How many
okay.
stitches? Like, what was the length of the operation?
I think it was like an hour and a half. It was a one day, so I was in and out the same day. But I went in. It's very unusual going into hospital feeling absolutely fine because obviously at that point my arm hadn't dislocated for probably about a year. So I'm going in feeling fine, feeling fairly strong, to then come out feeling like my arm's been ripped out of the socket and put back in, with some, I don't know what they did. They explained it, but it's so technical. It's written down somewhere.
How are you able to like speak and function like with this having been done? Like, how are you
Well,
surviving right now?
I mean, I've got three
Meds?
kids, including a baby. So
Oh
I've
yeah.
got to be, I've got to be on it. But no, I'm okay. Paracetamol and some coffee. I'm fine. Just
Dude, you're insane.
very achy.
I'd be like, give me everything you've got. Give me every pain blocking, whatever. Actually, I take that back. I really messed up my back. Like, really messed up my back. Um, God, I want to say about like a year and a half. No, it was actually 2 years ago. I was doing jujitsu, and like my lower back just jacked it. Um, and it's never been the same So, out here, living out here, I've started taking up Thai boxing. I also figured out something really interesting. So everybody in the West, when they get out here, they always go Muay Thai, but it's a distinct inflection, like a tone. Like when you're speaking Chinese, so I speak Chinese, there's the tones. There's like if you're doing ma, 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 right? Like, so there's like, and look at my head, ma, like a freaking idiot. But like, there's these different tones, and kind of the same thing with Thai in the sense of, um, there's a different kind of inflection anyway. So if you don't say Muay Thai right, you're actually saying pubic hair. Like that's the word, and nobody gets it right. And like if you're not a native speaker, nobody really gets it right. So I just say Thai boxing just to be safe.
Probably
So I
for the
never
best.
have that problem because a few times people are like, "What's this guy saying?" So,
So
but
you speak
yeah, but
Chinese as well?
yeah, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah,
How
yeah.
how
So
did that come about?
I was working for a nonprofit organization. This is forever ago. Like this is my goodness, it must have been 1998, I think is when it was. I could be totally off on that. No, 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 no. It would have been, I take that back. 2000, 2001. Yeah. So I was with a nonprofit organization and they sent over in the true kind of Mormon modeled nonprofit organization. They make you pay for everything, right? So it's like, the Mormon church, you give 10% of your income, and then they're like, oh, you want to go serve a mission for us? Well, you're going to pay for it. And same thing. So these guys are a bunch of, a couple of Mormon guys, and who started the company. Great guys, great company, but you pay for it. So it wasn't until after I did this trip that I was like, oh, there's volunteer organizations where like they'll actually pay you to go out and do stuff. Oh, that seems nice. But I went out with my wife at the time, my ex-wife, and went out and taught English to grade school kids in Wuhan, of all places. So
Oh,
we were out in Wuhan for a year and a little over a year, and yeah, it was crazy, 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 crazy times out there. Um, but taught these lesson plans to these kids, and it was interesting. It was just like to see, and to see a country where, like every morning these elementary school aged kids would get up and sing the Chinese national anthem, um, and do their marches and like march around. It was very this kind of like military environment, but from that age, right?
yeah, yeah,
And like the kids were just like super, pro China, and I just thought it was interesting. It was interesting to see. It's also how I learned the Chinese national anthem, which is a great like parlor trick that I can pull out
yeah.
every
It's,
now and
it's,
then.
it's such a difficult language to learn. So my first wife was Chinese, is Chinese,
Oh wow,
and so I tried as well. When we first got together, I'm going to learn Chinese. I'm going to take a course, and 2 weeks in, I just thought this is impossible. It's so difficult, and yeah,
that's rough.
very very
It's
easy.
rough because it's very musical, and like there's, like I said, like the tones.
Hmm.
So like and the words that I just said, right? Like ma, like those are four completely different words. Completely different words. So like but I guess, the same can be said for English. It's like two,
Yeah,
TWOTOTOO.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, man, like it's tough. But once you kind of written, there was no way to pick up. For me, it was really, really difficult. But even diving back in now, because I'm speaking to a lot of native Mandarin speakers, that there's just I don't know, right about when it was, I started picking up books that I had already read that were now in Chinese. And then it's right around the time where the internet was just starting to crackle. And there were a few of these things where people had done spoken word versions of like some of Shakespeare's plays, and stuff like that, which, I'm very familiar with, Hamlet and Othello and Macbeth. Those are probably my, the three that I'm most familiar with. And then to go and hear that in Mandarin, I was able to kind of like go, oh, okay, this is starting to make sense. Like I can see what's happening. But yeah, it is very difficult. And unless you're like immersed in the culture and immersed in that world, you don't get it. I will also say that like when I start bringing up, those experiences, about especially being over here, it doesn't help to convince people that I'm not a CIA agent. Because then they're like, "How do you speak Chinese?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, here it comes." Like, well, I taught English to grade school kids, and they're like, "Oh, that's very sweet in Wuhan," and they're like, "Ah, yay!" So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So last time, excuse me, last time that we spoke, we discussed quite a few bits. I mean, there was Jeremy Corbell History Channel, Spheres that
We
have
didn't
been
discuss. I just
well.
went on a rant. I mean, I distinctly remember I was so overly caffeinated that I like steamrolled you, and I apologize. Like that was nobody wants to
No, not at
fucking
all.
hear my
It's
stupid
all
ass.
good. It's all good. What I did want to jump back in on, and you kind of touched on it, but I wanted to kind of pin you down a bit more on what specifically you thought that it represents, and it could be that you think it represents all sorts of different things, as in the UAP UFO specifically. So interdimensional time travel, extraterrestrial AI from the past or the future. What do you think that it represents, or is it a mixture of all sorts of things?
I think it's a mixture of things. I am only speaking. Listen, man, I'm not like any kind of like UAP expert or anything. I just, it's like those things. You start to talk to a lot of people, especially in the films that I'm doing. So I got, three films that I'm doing this year, and they all have some element of either the industrial military complex or spycraft or um uh you know uh psyops, that kind of stuff. And I've got a few friends that have come from that world. And so I this is just off of my conversations. And really, like, let's be totally honest, like even somebody like Joe Rogan, who talks to a lot of people, knows a lot of very high level people.
Yeah.
He doesn't fucking know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And if they're able to keep all this, even the research thereof, right, the exploration of, hey, what the hell is this, if they're able to keep the investigation of these crafts secret from Congress, secret from the White House, like a new president rolls in and they go, yeah, you don't get to hear that shit, sorry, like not for your eyes, like that. That's concerning. Also, that means this dude doesn't have a fucking clue. You know what I mean? And it also means nobody else does either.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
talking about shit. But that said, from conversations that I've had with people, and I think more importantly for me at least, because listen, man, I when I was doing security and bodyguard work, like eyewitness testimony is about, it's about as reliable as being in a conversation with Jada Pinkett Smith and saying that she'll never insult Will. You know what I mean? Like it's never gonna fucking happen. So it's like, so you know, just in the documents, and then who knows if those have been put out as part of a dissemination campaign, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's important because I know some of the things I've seen, specifically in working on the Jonathan Pollard case, and working on his life story and kicking that out, seeing some of the documents that were available during the Reagan administration, which it was like we were looking at this Iran Contra, Israel, the same shit that we're dealing with right now, right? Like the same kind of manipulation behind the scenes. So I'm looking at all that, but then I'm seeing this other like glowing little thing over here that has to do with UFOs and UAPs, and I'm going, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me look at that real quick. So based off of that, I would simply say that from, we have definitely tech, and other countries have tech that nobody fucking knows about. Like nobody knows about. And it's so far beyond anything that we could conceive, right? Um, I mean, I was just seeing the other day, this new meta thing on the Lex Friedman podcast, and his conversation with Mark Zuckerberg. It's unbelievable. And these new, portals where somebody can, a loved one, we can have a conversation and either put on VR headsets and it's like they're right there with you, or, they have these big door sized things where an absolute 3D rendering of the person is right there in front of you that you can walk around without any goggles. That's crazy. So, there's that. I saw this gal, this presentation. She was wearing a dress that like changes patterns and changes design. All the innovations with AI and AI technology, which is just astounding. So, I mean, if those are like the little tinker toys that they're allowing us to play with, and we look back over history at the advent of the internet, the cell phone, even the rotary phone, even cars, and we look at what governments around the world, what technology they had at the time while we were fucking around with, sticks and stones. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty astounding, like how far they keep the public from the technology that the military has and that governments have. And that's not even including black ops, uh, off the books kind of operations. So it's very interesting. I mean, so there's that aspect of it. I think there's definitely tech that we have. And as far as like interdimensional beings, nah, I don't know. I mean, I tend to think like a little more like where are these things coming from? Like I keep going back to that and just saying, right, you're seeing these things over, Siberia, and you're seeing them over, in the middle of America, right? But where's the majority of these sightings taking place? Well, they're taking place over water, and specifically over locations that have not so secretive and secretive naval bases. So there's that. So that would either implicate that, this is our tech because it's around these places. But then you have the separation of people in the military not knowing what the hell this is. So then it would be something that's checking out what we got, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Particularly interested in nuclear submarines, particularly interested in nuclear sites, particularly interested in nuclear power plants. So that's interesting. But I keep going back to these things are coming in and out of the water. Like, and the majority of these sightings, yes, that you have over land, but we're talking about like hundreds, hundreds of these things over the water and coming in and out of the water, and also having other craft that comes up to the surface and these things detach and fly off. So they're in the fucking water. Like, and again, I go back to that thing of like, if you came here and you were using, planet Earth as your test tube, and we're on this, rocket ship, the Earth is spinning through space around this, unreal, amazing engine that is the sun, and we're actually spinning through the universe like this. We're not at a location, like what people previously thought. We're not stationary. We're not sitting somewhere where somebody can just come and visit. It just feels like that. But in reality, we're like flying. We are flying through the universe. Our entire solar system is flying through the universe. So, somebody comes here and sets up shop in the ocean, and that's where they stay, and they come in and out, and they modify our genetics and do this and that. So that's my thought. I think it's a combination of something that is already here, that has been here for a long time. And because they've been here for a long time, they represent themselves in our art, in our architecture, all the way back to the first, cave drawings and etchings that people were making. And they've always been here. So, there's that. What does that mean? And then, there's the other side of the coin that's like, nah, man, maybe somebody found something eons ago or however long ago, not eons, but found something, reversed the tech, and it's just us. And we're using this technology, but it still, doesn't negate the fact that we have it, you know, we have it and we're using it. And that's just off of patents, that's off of designs, that's off of plans, that's off of stuff that the Air Force and the Navy had in its design plans. Again, I go back to Tom Clancy, Hunt for Red October, where he's going, well, you got this, you got this, you got that. That means you have a silent running sub. And they're just like, who the fuck are you talking to? And we all know that the industrial military complex and off books programs, when they're designing shit, they compartmentalize, right? So they separate everybody out and they're like, okay, you guys are working on the turrets, you guys are working on the belts, you guys are working on, this. And then they put all the parts together and assemble it, but not, these people aren't talking to each other. So, yeah, the way to keep it secret, of course, yeah, it's, they can absolutely keep it secret. This notion too that I want to poke holes in, of somebody saying there's too many people involved for them to keep quiet. Really? Because a lot of motherfuckers kept quiet about a lot of things in the past. Like, that this is why they screen individuals. This is why they interview people when they're coming. There's a whole interview background check process when you come in to any of these organizations, FBI, DOJ, CIA, whatever, NSA. They come in and they screen you to be a certain personality type. As much as they say they're all for diversity and whatever, they're looking for a specific type of individual. And that person comes in, and then you're just screening the populations for those right groups of people that will keep their fucking mouths shut.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're not dealing with just a bunch of people that pulled off a bank robbery and now they're sitting in a bar, somewhere in Venice going, we just fucking robbed this place, man. Like, that doesn't happen that way. Look at the nuclear tests, all the nuclear tests and the shit that they were doing, back then, and thinking that it was going to set, the outer atmosphere on fire, and doing tests over near Antarctica and doing tests over the Pacific Ocean. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy they were doing this shit and keeping it secret.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Totally nuts.
Do you think that the the changes to legislation around whistleblowers, so for example, the whistleblower legislation that I think David Grush was part of drafting, that only came out a year or so ago, do you think that's going to change things now with people coming forward?
Yeah, I think more people will come forward. I mean, so funny. Everybody gets so, I'm trying to see past my own bullshit and my own biases, but like, my experience is, I can only speak from my experience, right? Until somebody proves me wrong. And so my experience is that people in power don't relinquish that power. The power just changes into something else. And I heard a really cool thing. I can't remember who was saying that. Who was that? I was listening to something. I know it was a podcast. I was listening to it yesterday, but I heard somebody saying, in essence, Rome didn't fall. It wasn't like Rome fell and they just disappeared off the face of the planet. Rome turned into the church, and the church wielded the power that it did, right? Same thing could be said for Britain. That Britain didn't fall. That Britain just turned into the bank. So Britain's like, hey, we'll give you back all your territories. We're just going to, be back to us with a few outlying territories, but you guys can bank with us. So whatever money you make, you just give to us, and we'll we'll charge you for it. So they're still wielding power. They're just wielding it in a different way. And the same thing's going on with the United States right now. It's like, in a certain sense, you'll see the United States fall in a certain sense, but the United States is, in a literal sense, there will be things that collapse, but at the same time, you're going to see that power shift into something else, whatever the hell that is. So the reason I share that with you is because groups, organizations, and individuals that are wielding power where you can defy the laws of physics as we currently understand them, that can go, because we've seen the video over and over again. It's not a video anomaly. Like, we've got pilots who had eyes on, and again, eyewitness testimony, but you have all this instrumentation that's verifying the thing they're seeing with their own fucking eyes. So you're seeing these craft go in and out of water at the same speed, right? Like that, just coming in and out, or going in the water and you see them traveling under the water at the same rate of speed, and then boom, they pop up and then take off. So they're defying the laws of physics, right? So there's that. Cloaking technology, all this other crazy shit, able to outmaneuver anything that we got. So the individuals, groups, and organizations that wield that kind of power and that kind of tech, you think they're going to change it because of a whistleblower in a congressional hearing? Like, you're fucking high. Like, you're dealing with powers and people that have control at a level that nobody could possibly fathom or understand. You're talking about people that go, the president can fuck off. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And it doesn't matter how well spoken or articulate. It could be Trump, it could be Clinton, it could be, the amnesia patient Biden, it could be, whoever, amnesia patient, just the old guy. Weekend at Bernie's, but any president that has gone in and been like, tell me, show me, and even the ones that have been more aggressive about it, they're like, fuck off, you're not seeing anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you this, Bill Clinton, Area 51 is real. Oh my God, wow. It's like, get out of here. So that kind of power is not relinquished. There's that saying, like, an iniquitous king is not overthrown without much bloodshed. This is the same thing. I talked to my friends about Epstein's Island, and it's like, not a single person has been brought to justice about that. Not a single person has been outed. Like, we know, like, we have a certain level of information, but like, what's changed? Has anything changed? No, like, not changed at all. And by the way, what the fuck are you going to do about it? Nothing, absolutely nothing. No, we can rally, we can bring them. You can't do anything. You can do nothing. And that's kind of the freeing thing about it, is that, it's like my buddy Noah says all the time. He's like, listen, man, all I care about, because if I don't, I'll go clinically insane. All I care about is what I can control, which is me, or not control, but what I can have an effect on, which is myself, my family, my friends, the people around me, make sure they're safe. Be a good friend, be a good father, be a good husband, those kinds of things. That's it. And as much as we can organize and push the needle, I'm not saying it's not beneficial. I'm not saying it's not worth it to go out and fight the power and stand and protest. I just mean that, it's just that, man. Like, what are you going to do? You ain't going to do nothing. Yeah. Harvey Weinstein, same thing. It's like, ding dong, the witch is dead. We got rid of Harvey Weinstein and Me Too, right? And it's like, wow, we've changed this industry for the better. We changed it. And it's like, you changed nothing. It's just gotten more secretive. Non-disclosure agreements went from being this thick to this thick. And you got the same assholes participating in the same predatory behavior. Men, women, gay, straight. We haven't even scratched that. We've just talked about the horrific men, the monsters, and there are plenty of those. We haven't even touched women. They're absolute psychopathic, narcissistic, predatory women that run high level positions in the entertainment industry. The same thing could be said for gay and straight, LGBTQ. Like it's the whole spectrum. It's just psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists. Um, and so it's like, what has changed after Me Too? Nothing. Like it just got morphed into something else, and I got the receipts to prove it. But yeah, so I have a bit of a different mentality about that. But that doesn't mean we don't go to war. It doesn't mean that we don't fight. It doesn't mean that we don't protest. Just have a reality about what
Yeah.
the situation is. I don't know. I'm a little more.
You very much wear your heart on your sleeve, and you're very honest, and I love that. I absolutely do. It's a breath of fresh air. Do you
Oh,
find
thanks.
that it affects you in any way in your professional life, as in
It's
like as a
terrible.
writer? I mean,
It's fucking terrible, dude. Terrible,
I'm
man.
sitting here thinking like, because a lot of people that you see who discuss some of these subjects are very careful in the way they do it, or very diplomatic in the, not, you know what I mean? And I love it.
Or
I absolutely love
rehearsed.
it. But
Or yeah, or rehearsed. Like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
actors. Nothing's worse than seeing actors talking about acting with actors, acting on acting and acting on a podcast. It's like, listen, man, between you guys, reality TV, Hollywood Roundtable, and Dancing with the Stars, I've had enough of you fucking clowns. Like, stop, just stop. Unless you're dealing with like some sincerity or some honesty, and there's that too. There's fake, this rehearsed kind of bullshit that people, this pandering that they put out there, this like blue collar pandering, that you just sit there and go, man, you're sitting back doing this podcast wearing $5,000 jeans. What the fuck are you talking about? Like this like everyman blue collar shit. It's like you're not. So when you no longer cook and you're just ordering food to your house 24/7 and got assistants and you know housekeepers and shit like that, like it's just a different world, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that world. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the successes that you've earned, but it's a different thing to flip that thing around and try to pretend like you are living, not that you understand or have sympathy or empathy, but that you yourself are living this kind of blue collar, middle class, hardworking, rah rah American life. Bullshit. Fuck out of here. You know? And that pandering just drives me crazy. But man, I get it. Like Americans gobble that shit up. They gobble it up. I don't, maybe you as an outsider can like explain this to me. Is it the Judeo-Christian kind of foundations or something like that? And I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to find the origin of why everyone in America needs a savior. All of them. Like they're all looking, going, save me, Trump, save me, Biden, save me, this organization, save me. I'm gonna put on this shirt that says I'm a this or I'm a that, or this is my flag that I'm planting. I'm with this group of people. And everybody's looking for some type of being, organization, person, movement to save them instead of saving themselves. And I'm not talking about individuals that aren't in a position to. I'm talking about everybody. Everybody's looking for a cause to get behind. I don't understand why everyone needs a savior, because they love that. I read the comment sections on all this shit, and they just go, oh, he's just like me. Like Tom Cruise has mastered this thing. He's like, I'm just like you. I'm just a regular fucking guy like you. Hold on a second while I hold on to this fucking airplane that's shooting off into the sky, or I ride this motorcycle off a ramp and parachute, down into a plane that I then fly by myself, to go do this thing. It's like, that whole thing of sitting on top of the airplane. I don't know if you saw that, his
yeah.
promotion where he's standing on top of that fucking airplane, And he's like, I hope you guys enjoy the movies and we'll see you back there. What's that, Tom? Oh, okay. All right, Roger. Okay, see you. And he goes down and people are sitting there watching that. I was watching, I showed that to a buddy of mine and he goes, man, dude, that's so cool. It's just he's so relatable. And I'm like, what the fuck about that you just watched is relatable? It's not relatable at all. What the hell are you saying? This guy's an alien. Like, what are you talking about? And on top of that, like is heading up, the Church of Scientology, which like, let's get into that, holding people against their will and doing all kinds of crazy shit. It's like, this is not hey, what's going on, guy? Oh, you taking the kids to school? Oh, great. What'd you have for dinner last night? Burgers. Grill them yourself? Shut the fuck up. Like, dude, you have no idea. Your brain's completely rewired into something else. So yeah, man. To your question though, like it was difficult. It's not difficult anymore because I'm not in it.
Yeah.
I pulled myself out and just said, I'm never coming back to the US. I'll come back to the US to visit friends, to visit family. I'm getting ready to make a trip out there for that, but I'm done. I'm done trying to do business in a brothel inside of a casino that's run by Jeffrey Dahmer. I have no desire to set foot into the concrete jungle of Los Angeles ever again. And people will say, well, there's brilliant artists there. It's like, yeah, you can find a handful. You can find a handful of people, but the majority of people out there, it's a light bulb that attracts the moths of the worst, and there's a lot of people in positions of power that are just horrific. It's the same thing as Washington, D.C., right? So how does it affect me? Well, it used to, I used to let it get to me. I used to get depressed. I've been betrayed by everybody, dude. Like friends, fucking, uh, you know, partners, girlfriends, like you name it, like the worst kind of betrayal. Like, and it's not what was done. It's not like, crimes committed. It's the fact that somebody is smiling at you while they are disemboweling you. You know what I mean? And saying to you the entire time, I know it hurts, but I love you, like that's wild. And it's evil. So I just, thanks, but no thanks. I got, my beautiful fiance, our amazing kid, and we're just like, yeah, we'll take this party elsewhere. And boy, I gotta tell you, like it just feels really good to be doing business, working, making movies, making a series now with people that are just about the work, not about how many followers you have, not about anything but just getting work done and making great work, and just really brilliant, wonderful people. I'm just very blessed and grateful to have that and to not deal with that bullshit. I mean, dude, like whenever I come into LA, it's like, I mean, literally and figuratively, I get strapped up, like I come in, I'm like, all right, let me grab my piece. Let me let me be praying every morning. You should be doing something spiritual every day, but it's like, you got to put on this like armor, like you're going into battle, and I just, if I was a single individual that didn't have a soul and just cared about domination, power, and carnal desires, then yeah, LA would be the pleasure island of my dreams. But I don't give a fuck about it. I'd rather just make good art. But it doesn't affect me. I don't let that shit, deal with me because I don't deal with it. If somebody's coming at me, I just go, whatever, and then, pivot around and move on to something else. Because life's too short. I don't need to dwell on these monsters.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, that kind of comes onto my last question for you, really, which is what are you able to talk about what you're working on at the moment and any sort of projects that you're doing?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So we've got, there's the Jonathan Pollard project, tentatively called Mice. It's really great. I adore the script, and not because I wrote it. It's because we had some really talented, much more talented than me, individuals with eyeballs on it and feeding me information that the real story presented itself and was very personal. Because listen, you can have all kinds of cool shit happening in a story, but unless it like resonates with something personal and heartfelt,
Yeah.
there's no reason for me to tell it. So that's really awesome. There's a company that I'm launching at AFM with a group of incredible people that I've been working with for the past 2 years. I'd like to think that what we're doing is going to change filmmaking fundamentally, um, and get rid of a lot of the old programs and software and kind of the old means of doing things, and also chin check an environment that's rife with corruption on the side of producers and agents and financiers, and just make, if there's any possible way of making the business of budgeting, financing, screenwriting, creative and non-creative deliverable generation, I think it's going to be this software that we've created and developed. So we're launching at AFM. That's exciting. And I got these three other projects. Brass Catchers, which I'm doing with Joe Carnahan. We've been planning this for a long time, but it actually looks like we're close, really close to getting it done. Hit, Kick, Punch, Kill, which I'm doing with RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan, aka Bobby Diggs. He's an incredible human being, and we got something really special planned. And I'm directing a feature 2024, probably Q3 of 2024. Script's done. I've been working with Shia on that, and got a series that we're kicking out and taking around there. So it's really busy, but we're doing everything in Asia.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
Fantastic. That's where we're at.
You're
that's
busy.
And where are you at right now? Are you in the same place where you were talking to me before?
Yeah, I'm in Lincolnshire. This is my study in my house.
Study.
Yeah, we recently moved house in order to have more space for our newborn. We got a 7-week-old baby, little boy, so we wanted a bit more space. And thankfully, because we've got a bit more space, I've got a study.
What's your secret? What's your secret?
I would say,
like, I'm falling apart. Like, what is your secret?
I would say, for me, I'm 40, so I'm 40 years old.
Okay.
I try not to get to. I had some stressful things in my life, but I try not to. See, my partner says I'm very laid back, too laid back sometimes. I'm not very good with making plans. I've had to get better at that with calendars and non-stop reminders and setting reminders. I've got reminders going off left, right, and center. But just, I don't know, just doing what you want to do as best you can. Really.
I mean, do you have a daily thing that you do? Any kind of rituals, any kind of spiritual something, or like what?
No, I just no, nothing.
Bastard. You're just like, I'm just me, brother. Like
I think that's the thing. If you do what you want to do, and I think you're a prime example of this. If you have your eye on a goal, something that you want to do in life, whether it's work wise or creative, you can combine those, I suppose. But in a creative side of things, there's less. It feels like there's less opportunity, certainly over here in the UK, to be able to have to be able to go after your creative interest or direction, as well as making enough money to sort of support your family and your home and your mortgage and your car payments and all this sort of stuff. So for me, it's kind of my spare time. I do electrics. It's kind of my main trade, I suppose. to pay the bills. And then my interest is creativity. I mean, I love film. I love music. I'm very interested, as you can tell, in the UAP subject and technology and science, and super interested in kind of SpaceX and Mars missions and all this sort of stuff. So it kind of all combined into one, which kind of led me onto this. What I do is I'll talk to people that interest me, and this will be, an interesting way in. I like UAPs, UFOs, and some of these people clearly do as well, because there's kind of some interaction with the account. So let's do it, and it's
Dude,
worked.
I'll send you over some documentation that I can about. I mean, this will spin you off into all kinds of craziness, but it's these documents that discuss the fact that we've got ships already out there, that we already have tech, humans on them, flying around doing all kinds of stuff in outer space.
Please do.
And it's pretty crazy. So it's like now they're like, oh, we have the Space Force, like we're doing the Space Force thing. But this is like we've had guys up there for a while. And they're on advanced ships. We got guys who are, this thing, whether it's true or not, but it's like we have people in craft that we have made that are beyond our solar system, like, which is wild. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's just crazy to see documents like that, and like what David Grush was talking about in his testimony, and some of these other guys. Like, you look these papers up and you just go, wow, like, well, if it wasn't a thing, then why is the CIA talking about it? Or why is, this agency talking about it? Or, this branch of the military, why are they looking into it? If it's not real, if it's not a thing, then why is this happening? And then here's all this other shit, that they're involved in. It's really, it just throws you for a loop. It's really interesting. Yeah, I'll send that over to you.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's just it's interesting and it's quite fun to put all the pieces together, and you'll see something and then that'll send you off onto a bit of a rabbit hole to find something else. There's a little jigsaw piece and you put these pieces together, and ultimately we are all just speculating. There's very few people, I think you sort of mentioned it yourself, very few people that know the full details, and the rest of us are just speculating. Even the so-called experts are just speculating, some with some good information. But it's good to put everything together and just see what signals there are out there, and what kind of direction we start going in based on the groupthink, which I think there's some element of truth to finding the evidence that way.
If you have such a brilliant mind like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like I remember him being asked, like, well, what do you think about UFOs and blah 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 blah? What do you think about this? What's going on? What's this phenomenon? What's happening? And to hear a brilliant mind like that, when he was asked the question, I was like, oh, he's teeing up. Like, he's going to tee up something great. Like, here's what I know. Like, this is what I know about the universe. This is what I know about physics. This is what I know, about this, that, and the other. This is why it makes sense, or why it doesn't make sense, right? Instead, the argument he laid out was, why would extraterrestrials be interested in us? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, really? That's it? That's all you got? Yeah. Like, nothing else? Like, give me something other than just, they wouldn't bother with us. Like, you're banking on the fact that they're, how do you know that these aren't, soul-sucking leeches that just have a technological advantage? Like, look at us, look at our history as human beings. We like to think that something out there is greater, more, intellectually, like at a higher level, spiritually at a higher level. Like, they've given up violence of all sorts. They're enlightened beings that are here to help the humankind like transcend and elevate. This is why I love Jordan Peele's movie Nope, because it's like, no, it's just a creature that lives in the clouds that wants to fucking eat you. Like, that's what it is, because humans apparently are tasty, and they're really tasty when they're afraid. Like, how do you know that these things aren't like, listen, man, you're on the menu. Like, that's the deal. It's like chicken, beef, seafood human. Like that's the deal. So we come down, we eat a certain number of you every year. We have a deal with your governments, and then they don't shoot us down, and that's our kind of agreement with them. And in turn, we don't blow up your planet. We don't fucking know. We have no idea. So it's interesting to speculate, but
Definitely.
man.
We'll look on that very positive end.
Yeah, right. You're all going to be eaten by aliens. I I do want to say I appreciate the kind words. It's like you said something really really nice before we got cut off the last time you talked about Man Down. I just wanted to say thank you for that, man, because we put a lot into that film and really loved it, and there was a whole effort to just I know this is a pejorative term and it's kind of been co-opted into something else now, but it is like we got canceled. Like that movie got fucking canceled. Um, the people on the right were saying it was anti-military. The people on the left were saying it was anti-Obama because he was in the middle of doing the surge in Afghanistan, and neither of those things were true. Like neither of them were true. So I really appreciate you saying what you said, and but I'm very excited about the projects that I'm working on right now.
Good, brilliant. I can't wait. I love your
Yeah.
work. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. So hopefully we'll stay in touch and we'll talk again in the future. I really appreciate your time.
Awesome, brother, for sure. Hit me up anytime, and I'll send you over a bunch of stuff that'll keep you up until the wee hours of the morning.
Thank you. Please do. Take care, buddy.
All right,
Thank
man.
you. Cheers.
Talk soon.